Yep, we're good. Let me just make the necessary adjustments on here. Here we are. And all right, good afternoon, everyone.
Mhm.
Hope everything is all right with you. Welcome back to another another time, another episode, another post with the Dollars and Cents team. Of course, my name is Kenton Perrin, aka KP, and we have Miss Keisha Johnson, one of their co-hosts on here, Miss Billy Jane, who is also another co-host, and we have our guest speaker, but we'll deal with our guest speaker in a second. Just want to say shout outs to everyone. Happy Black History Month. I'm going to chastise my two co-hosts because we had planned, I come here with, with my stuff. I'm gonna I'm gonna go away
Oops.
and go change and come back.
No.
No, no,
You're
it's good.
representing
It's
for the
good. Oh
team.
my goodness. Yes, we need to come adorned. Yes.
It's Black History
Oh,
Month,
Black
guys. We
History
gotta
Month.
get in
Oh
that
my goodness.
spirit, right?
Do not change, please. But
Yes.
yes, we will be back next week with some African
All right.
adornment.
Listen, we gotta
You're
we
looking
gotta do
good.
that. Well, listen, I appreciate it. Some folks have blessed me over the years, so
Love it.
I'm donning one of my blessings.
Please
Right?
do. I love it. Looks
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes,
Awesome.
so we're back again, guys. We're back, and this is what the second Thursday in February as we're celebrating Black History Month. We are trying to do it for the community, in the community, right? Inform our people, impact our people, whatever changes we can make, whatever information that we can bring, we'll
Yes.
definitely bring it. Let me also put that disclaimer out there. We offer advice and suggestions. We're not suggesting that you do something based on what we are saying because we are not trained professional. For some of us, depending on what it is that we're looking at, not
Hmm.
trained professionals. So when we are trained in that particular field, we'll make sure to let you know, right? So we give you good advice, we point you in the right direction,
Yep.
right? And then you can take it from there. All
Yeah.
right,
As we
go ahead,
always
go
say,
ahead, Keisha.
we're bringing knowledge and opportunity to those in the community. That's what we want to do. We want to make a difference. We want to make a change. We want to make an impact. So any
Mm-hmm.
way that we can, this is why we're here to provide, some information.
All right, thank you for that. So we have a guest today. We are, we're dealing with mental health. It's Black History, but as Keisha and Billy would often emphasize, it's not just the dollars, but the cents as well.
Hmm.
We need we need to deal with the cognitive side of things and how that affects our people, right?
Yes.
And we are dealing with something that is often not looked on in a positive way in our community, or it is hidden, right?
Mhm.
And but we have to address it because it impacts all of us, young and old. Regardless of what status we have in life, it affects us, right? And regarding that, now we have a special guest today. We have Pastor Jermaine. Jermaine, why is your Parker? Your last name was evading me for a second.
You are KP and I am JP.
Yes, yes, yes. That's it. That's it.
And I'm KJ.
Yeah.
um, you're here as someone who is doing studies in this area. I'm careful in terms of, because I know that you are currently pursuing a master's degree in
Yeah.
clinical counseling and psychotherapy, correct?
Yes.
All right. So
Yeah.
just generally, I know you. we're in the same field, right? But I just want you to give the audience a little, info as to who you are. Tell us a little bit about your background as well. Mix it in there. We're dealing with the specific issue today, but just so that they have an idea as to who you are. All right.
Well, definitely. I am, I'm a Seventh Adventist member. I'm currently serving as assistant pastor at the Philadelphia Seventh Adventist Church, and my senior pastor is Pastor Harold Johnson, who's given me mentorship and guidance in ministry going forward. But I grew up in Jamaica, the inner city of Jamaica.
Did you say the inner city of Jamaica?
Yes, yeah, inner city.
Okay.
One of the inner cities in
Right.
Jamaica. Right, I'm coming from.
Okay.
And, and of course, I did my studies at Northern Caribbean University, and I'm finishing up a MDiv in clinical counseling, psychotherapy, and of course, that is mental health. That's what. And I'm currently doing an internship too, where I'm actually treating a lot of mental health issues, especially within the Black community at this time. So, I'm married to my wife, Charlie, of course. Who tries to support me as much as she can in terms of the different occupations that I take on from day to day.
Right.
And I'm a sports fanatic too.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell I, so I love, because that's a part of mental health, right?
I was up right.
Yeah.
So I love soccer, back home we call it football. just to make the distinction, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm a supporter of Barcelona football team, right? Our football club at this time, right? And of course, definitely, this season we may not, perform in the best we can, but we see where we are improving as much as possible.
And that's for all the haters out there, right? Jesse?
Yes. I'm just putting that out there. We are improving. We're normally on top, but this year, because of a number of structural managerial issues.
Yes, sir.
Oh, you went deep there.
Right? Oh my goodness.
He knows what he's doing, man. You got some individuals who may have something to say, so he's just putting it out there.
Yes, that's right.
All right, man. Listen, welcome, man, and thanks for being on here with us. We're as we said in the opening, we're just trying to do it for the community, whatever it is, and talking about this particular issue is we're glad that you're here to help us deal with the subject matter. Before we begin, I just quickly want to sort of start us off by looking at an article here, just to sort of give us a springboard into our discussion, right? Should I call you Pastor Park or just Jermaine? What you prefer?
Anything you're comfortable with.
All right. So all right. Let me just share this here. I'm doing my best to support the team tech-wise. I'm not as good as Jermaine here, but all right. So this is the title. You all can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the title. It's a news. This is one of the major New York Post. This is maybe you guys would have heard ex Miss USA who committed suicide, right? Here is her picture right here, and it's the result, they're saying, of cyberbullying, right?
Wow.
Beautiful young lady, right? And bright future. She's let me see here. In terms of, I was trying to catch her age. I don't think she's in her I think she's in her I'm not too sure how old she is, but I think she's a younger person. I could be wrong, right? But the point is, she took her life because social media was dealing with her kind of hard. I don't know the details of it. Usually, when you get these stories, you don't have much information.
Mhm.
And the article also highlighted this other story here. Day before, 12-year-old Mallory Grossman hanged herself in
Oh
in
gosh.
uh, in what is it, in 2017, and she came to her parents in tears. Cell phone she had. She had never been so upset, right? Once again, you have another story here, right? And we've been getting it. We've been getting it. Quite a few young people um, deciding to go down this route, right? Suffering from depression, dealing with all the challenges that society is throwing at them, whether it's bullying or just regular societal pressure. And of course,
Mm.
it is not something that we're not dealing with in the Black community, right? It's something that we're dealing with as well.
And just to quickly point out, she's 30 years old.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. All right. She's 30 years
Still
old,
very
so
young. Yeah.
still a young person,
Hmm.
right? So, talk to us, Jermaine, in terms of, the specifics of what you are dealing with, and help us to understand a little bit about, the dealing with these things, understanding the subject matter a little bit, just, so that we can get the conversation going. You're
Jermaine.
muted. You're muted.
Yes, and I want to, yes, thank you very much, KP. I want to extend condolences to the family
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
because this is really, really rough. It is tough because this is a well loved and appreciated young lady.
Yeah.
And, she has contributed significantly to the world, to the good of the world.
Hmm.
Beautiful, a young lady that is filled with a lot of potential,
Hmm.
a young lady who aspires to do a lot for the world, right? In
Right.
general. And so it's really, really painful to lose somebody, especially at that tender age. 30,
Right.
very,
Yes.
very, very, very tender age, and it's very unfortunate. But suicide is basically, based on my perspective, it's basically
Hmm.
a symptom of a lot of issues that a person might be dealing with in their lives.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a symptom that leads a person to a very dark place, very, very dark place that is not easy to deal with, right, from an individual perspective. Um, and when I said dark, we're talking about in terms of the mindset, the thinking, how the person process the problems and the different issues that they are dealing with. It's very, very dark. It's a place of deep hopelessness. And usually that's a result of pain in the person's life, emotional and mental pain, and things that they see that as something that is difficult to actually resolve. You know what I mean? So it's very, 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 very sad that this is the actual experience. And the truth is, this also attests that you know human beings are not immune to these kind of realities,
Hmm.
right? And suicide affects every communities,
Hmm. Yeah.
every every community on this earth.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter the color of your skin, it doesn't matter, you know your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your cultural upbringing and so forth. It affects every community,
Hmm.
right? Because suicide and these things, we're talking about mental health, is no
Yeah.
respecter of person.
Hmm.
Right.
And without the appropriate and timely intervention, these are things that we will continue to see in the earth or in the world, right? And this is a reality in our black community, because that's what we're talking about. Because
Right.
I grew up in our context, as I mentioned, I grew up in one of the inner cities in Jamaica, and I don't grow up seeing, though we were poor, people actually committing suicide within my context until when I became an adult. A guy who grew up with me, he was the age of 30 at the time, a couple of years ago, right?
Hmm.
Right, we grew up, I saw him, we grew up together basically. I'm a little bit older than him, of course. And he died at the age of 30, and it was actually suicide. And it was really, really painful and shocking for the community, because we do not see these kind of things, though we are poor. And I'm not sure what's the, what are some of the cultural dynamics of our inner city context, where we don't see these kind of occurrences. But it was really, really shocking, and very, very painful. And that young man was a young man who was going to contribute significantly to the community. And it happened that he took his own life. And it was really, really, really painful and mournful. So this is the reality. So what I'm saying, without the appropriate and timely interventions, this
Yes,
is something that, yeah, this is something that can happen. So it's a result of mental health issues and pain that people are actually carrying.
So
Yeah. I was just going
yeah.
to ask, so,
Oh,
so often people suffer silently, right?
yeah.
And even just reading a little bit about, the beautiful Chesley Christ or Christ, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. And I didn't realize she was one of the winners. Remember when they had like Miss USA, like they had three black um, winners of the USA pageants, the various
Right,
levels.
that
And
time,
she
right?
was one of the
Yes.
three.
Wow.
Yeah. So, the thing is just sort of quickly looking at the article, seeing that her mom didn't even really know how sad she was, and how how do we create a space where people can speak, because so many people suffer so silently, and COVID has not helped
Hmm.
with people being isolated
Locked
from,
away.
and not having the social interaction. We were just saying even before we started about the beautiful Miss Regina King, and this the sad and tragic loss of her son, also by suicide. And sort of coming out of COVID and everything like that. Like, how do we create a space that we can speak more about what we're going through, you know
yeah, that's a absolutely wonderful question. And of course, the space that you are talking about, that you are referring to, what is actually coming to my mind is a space that is actually safe. A space where, yeah, and I say safe, and I'm not talking about physical safety alone, but I'm talking about a space where persons don't feel criticized and persons
Right.
don't feel judged, to talk about
Okay.
the real stuff, the real stuff. We're talking about things that are really, really affecting individuals. Thus the environment and the ability to talk about these things can be therapeutic.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that has to be done in an environment where and you are deeply convinced that persons are not going to use your information that you're going to share to hurt you. Okay?
Oh,
yeah.
And you have to be very, very convinced that if, for example, four of us are here, just say four of us are in a setting, and I'm going through some really, real stuff in my life, things that I'm not proud of, and deal with some brokenness.
Yeah.
If I know that one of you are going to use what I'm going to share to hurt me, I will lean towards, the context of keeping what I'm dealing with inside. And the thing about keeping what we are dealing with inside is that it is just like water. It's gonna find a way to come out. It's going to find a way to come out.
Eventually, yeah.
Is going to find a way to come out. And so it's important to have that space where that is non-critical, non-judgmental, and so forth, where persons can speak about real stuff, being authentic about what they are going through. And it is deeper than just asking me a question, how are you? And I just give you something surface. I'm talking about the real stuff that I'm dealing with. We're talking about mistakes. We're talking about weaknesses. We're talking about things that make me feel vulnerable. But at the same time, I know that I'm going to get the level of support and comfort from the person that I'm actually speaking to. So that's the kind of environment. And sometimes, and within our own families, within our own church communities, within our own social settings, sometimes we don't have that. And many of us are carrying these issues, these baggages, these issues for many years,
Hmm.
right? And we are also taught that we need to tough it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
man no
In the
cry,
culture. Yeah.
Yes.
big man no cry, and so forth. So you need to tough it out, you need to rough it out,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
so forth. And that can be very difficult, so it's a twofold responsibility I'm seeing there in dealing with our own mental health, right? One, the ability and the willingness on the part of the individual going through to be vulnerable, and two, those who are of great importance to our lives should create that
Face
safe
to face. Okay.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we can express some stuff. Because the truth is that you have something, and the reason why I'm saying this, some persons might not necessarily have the psychological, therapeutic principles and guidelines and tools and resources to share, but to be an active listener and to be somebody who is judgmental can at least start the process of healing and restoration. Because the truth is, when you talk to somebody, you know that the person is safe and the person doesn't have significant suggestions to give you, but the person is present with you and the person is not going to, I'm telling
Judge
you,
you. Hmm.
and the person is not going to judge you. It makes a huge difference, KP,
Hmm.
in terms of bringing healing. And when I say healing, at least when I say healing, meaning that your problems are not necessarily solved,
Yeah.
but you feel better, and you have
Mhm.
that, you have some rev in your tank, right, or in your engine,
Yeah.
so to speak,
Yeah. Yeah.
for an extra day or extra month or extra 3 months to continue to deal with until you find some other practical ways to actually deal with the problems and solve them.
Now,
Yeah.
one of the things that has always stood out to me that I always remember. I don't know if you remember that actor, Mrs. Doubtfire, Christopher Robbins. I think that's his last name.
Robert. No.
Rob-
What is it?
No,
What is
it's
he?
not Christopher.
no, it's not.
Robin.
Robin Williams.
Robin
Robin
Robin.
Williams.
Williams.
Robin Williams. Yes, yes.
Totally wrong.
Robin Williams.
Yes, Robin Williams. Yes. But
Christopher Robin is somebody else.
Who's Christopher Robin?
It's Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh.
yeah, I mean, his whole career was making people laugh.
Yeah.
Making people laugh. He was like a comedian. Mrs. Doubtfire. A lot of children love that movie. And every time you see him, he looked as though he was happy, but yet he was dying
Yep.
inside. And just to know that, I mean, when someone comes to, as they say, the world's a stage. When someone comes on that stage of life, you have no idea what's going on in the
Mhm.
back end, right? How can we identify, some of the, these specific things that will allow us to know that, is there a way for us to, because some are suffering silently, as we say. Are there ways for us to identify when someone is suffering from some sort of depression or mental health?
Can
Yeah.
I just Jermaine, just before you answer that,
Hmm.
let me just throw, because Keisha mentioned Robin Williams. um, individuals that we have been seeing in the media, and they're popular individuals. I remember, of course, Kanye West is one individual that that social media has been highlighting as dealing with potentially something like this, and he was laughed at. I'm just throwing these names out and drilling down on what you're talking about, the safe space, right? Um,
Mhm.
don't forget what Keisha asked, but I'm just throwing out these other names that we have been hearing from our community. Tyrese at one point. There are several black individuals, and it's like it wasn't well. People didn't think. I don't know if it's because they're rich and they're famous. People didn't think that they're real. They didn't take them serious. And then, for individuals who didn't look like us, whenever they were going through their thing, they got the kind of support that they needed, or they were shown support, at least on social media.
Yeah.
And that type of thing. Just want to throw that in there because Keisha mentioned Robin Williams, but in our community, we got
And of course, what you are saying there, and I'm glad that you're highlighting those names, because highlighting those names, I'm hearing people of power, people of influence,
right.
Hmm.
people who usually pour into others
Hmm.
are the ones who sometimes get left.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because you always pouring into others, sometimes it is
For
perceived
yourself.
that you don't need anybody to pour into you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good point.
And so sometimes you are left behind.
With nothing.
Sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sometimes you are devoid of the very things that you are pouring into others because of that kind of perception. And sometimes you, the individual, have that perception, and that somewhat cripple you. Sometimes that incapacitate you to reach out in that particular way. Um, and sometimes because others have that perception, they they don't approach you as, or see you as somebody who actually need, have these kind of needs where you need somebody to pour into you, and you need somebody where you can, they can serve as what is called that bouncing board. They can bounce some important stuff off, right? So that's important for us to note there. And sometimes, let me tell you, for example, like pastors are vulnerable to this. That's one example,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because a pastor is a spiritual leader, a pastor should possess all that is necessary to deal with his mental issues. No, a pastor need a pastor too. A
Yeah.
counselor needs a counselor too. A therapist needs a
As well.
therapist
Yeah.
too, and so forth, right? Because we are all human beings. We are human beings before we are pastors. We are all human beings before we are therapists. We are human beings before we are counselors. We are all human beings. We are human beings before we are actors and singers and NFL stars and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
At the core of who we are human beings, and we are prone to issues of brokenness and weaknesses and so forth that can be dealt with the right kind of intervention.
Right.
All right. So, in light of what Keisha mentioned, definitely sometimes it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
to actually notice some signs of individuals dealing with mental health issues.
They. Oh, you're gonna say something else, or
Yeah, 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 no, I'm continue talking, right?
okay?
So I'm saying sometimes it's difficult because you have a lot of persons, they because they are so used to it, they know how
To deal
to,
with it.
to cover
Mm-hmm.
those issues for a long period of time. That's number one. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because of the same perceptions, we are not in tune with the individual, and so we miss
Mm.
some
Yeah.
key signs that suggest that the person is actually crying out, right? It's easy for for the closer you are to somebody, it's easier for you to pick up on a few things, because you will see um a number of things that are not necessarily normal with the person, right?
That's true.
Definitely. But when they talk, one of the huge one is withdrawal. That's a huge one. That's one of the most noticeable one. Um, when they talk, if
Is
they,
is this general mental health, or you're talking about some signs leading up to other things like suicide? More severe things like
no, no,
suicide.
no, she was asking about signs.
Okay, okay,
Like if you are going through stuff, if
okay. All
you
right,
know, what are some of the things that I can actually
I.
notice about you
right,
that kind of suggests that KP might be going through some stuff,
right.
right? Yeah. So you look at one of the main thing that you're looking out for is functionality, because for example, when a person is dealing with depression, um, you are looking for sustained dysfunction with the person.
Mm,
Many um, psych not psychotherapists, psychiatrists will not necessarily diagnose a person with depression until they assess the level of functionality that exists with the person. So that's a huge pattern. We're talking about, you observe the functionality in terms of relationship, occupation, right? Relationship and occupation. Usually, you're going to pick up some signs in those areas, right? A certain level of apathy, right? For example, you have persons who are passionate about some stuff, and you do not see that level of sustained passion anymore,
Right. Yep.
right? It is dwindling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, it is dwindling. Um, you look at how the person function in in important relationships that they have in their lives, their marriage, relationship that they have, with with others, right? So sometimes these things are signs, because usually there are some strong emotions attached to mental health issues. Because the truth, when you're dealing with mental health issues, you are dealing with pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
mm,
And pain brings anger, and you're going to see that manifest itself in relationships. And I'm sticking on that one a little bit. Relationship and anger is expressed not only in outward aggressive ways, but also passive aggression, which include withdrawal of privileges and so forth and so on. So sometimes you will see some of these stuff, and just by having conversations with individuals, you will pick up some stuff like these. And then now, when you are talking with the person, you are listening for some key phrases or some key terms that they'll use, some key terms that suggest sadness and hopelessness
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
brokenness, and you have to pay attention to those things. For example, if a client comes in now for counseling, I'm listening out for feeling words
Mm.
or feeling expressions as they talk. They're
Right.
able to bring up a number of feelings word. I'm sad. I didn't like this, right? I'm so angry with that, and so forth. So when I'm hearing those things, I am going to pay attention, and I want to deconstruct that a little bit more and go a little bit deeper to find out what might be the root of that. So
Cause, yeah.
sometimes just having conversations with people, you will pick up some of these feeling expressions that kind of suggest that the person is dealing with pain in their lives.
And with these things that you're sharing with us,
Mhm.
you mentioned it before that for those of us who don't have the training like you do, these are when we pick up on these things, even if it's on a surface level, right? We're not doing it in a deep way.
Yeah.
So do we just continue to listen? Do we refer the person if we think that it's like how do we go about dealing with it?
It depends. It depends. It depends. Listening is a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a huge one because the mere fact the person is talking with you, there's a safe space.
right.
There's a sense of safety there.
Mhm.
And sometimes some persons, even though they're dealing with stuff, that's the only thing that they need at that moment. They
Right.
don't necessarily need you to go and report them to the authorities or whatever. So
Okay.
that the authorities come in and take them away and whatever, which can cause a number of issues,
Right.
At that moment that they are talking, probably that's what they want. They want somebody to listen, somebody to show that they care and so forth in that moment. Right. Yeah, so that's huge. And then now, when you pick up on certain things, it's important for you to, number one, do not take it lightly,
Yeah.
like sweep it under the carpet like that. You know, tactful observation.
Yeah.
Tactful observation, and it's good to have presence in the person's life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to be a present. Ensure that the person have people around them and
And
so
they're
forth.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if the person is someone who lives by themselves and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
you yourself, because you pick up on certain things, just check in. Not necessarily to pry in their business or in their stuff, but to kind of check in. That can also be a major factor, because you see, when persons have presence in their lives, we're talking about real, authentic, genuine presence in their lives. Sometimes that is a very good motivation going forward.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think Billy had something to say, or
Well, I know. I think this is so great in terms of, you know, being more sensitive to people because we do sort of get caught up in our lives. And you know what? We're all going through it. Like we
Yeah.
are all going through our own sort of journeys. And sometimes we can be a bit sort of focused on self and not really like you might kind of pick up because honestly, I really do think people leave clues. You might kind of pick up, but then you don't probe. You don't want to, you don't you know and so this is really good giving us these insights on how we can be more like how we can create that safe space, how we can be more in tune, how we can you know
Find a way to help. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But I guess my question too is now on the other side, how do we protect
Mhm.
ourselves? How do we help ourselves to not, like how do we protect our own mental health? Because, especially now talking about, we are in that midst of Black history and we bring forward some of the things that we face. And our whole experience being people of African descent is one that I think is very mentally challenging when you deal with microaggressions or overt experiences of racism, or just the experience of even just parenting in this world where we now have to navigate this world in a different way. We have to think about things in a different way. We kind of constantly always have to be on the alert, on the defense. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Just sort of navigating this thing. I just think about myself as a mom and just navigating school with my kids and always being on heightened alert. And like all of those things start to chip at your own mental well-being, just in the skin that we're in. So how do we protect ourselves? This is great to talk about how we can be more sensitive to what
Yeah,
we're all going through, but then how do we protect ourselves from, falling
yeah,
victim to that as well?
yeah. Absolutely. That's a very good
if
question.
if I can, like, I mean, I Billy took the words out of my mouth, because I was gonna ask if you can drill down on things that we normally deal with in our community, as far as this particular issue is concerned. Um, and I was also going to share the fact that, when I was growing up, or especially as a male, you're taught to be tough and don't show emotions, right?
Mhm.
Whatever comes, deals with it. If they're treating you a certain way on the job, or if you're treated a certain way in school, okay, fight back if you need to be, but don't show any weakness. And we bottle all of these things in. And I'm talking specifically to our community and some of the things that we are dealing with, right? So
Mhm.
I'm connecting it to what Billy said, but it's along the same vein.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So let me try and see if we can deal with what Billy mentioned first.
Mhm.
For those of us who can afford it, um, just as how a person would go in to do physical medical checkup, it's okay to book
Mhm.
appointments to do cognitive mental
Mhm.
health checkup too.
Right. Don't
It
wait till
doesn't,
there's an issue. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't, and of course, some agents provide even free counseling with solid professionals too. We can utilize that,
Mhm.
right, and check in with that as well. And it doesn't have to be this exhaustive amount of sessions. It could be 3 4 sessions, for for 4 consecutive weeks, or one per month, or whatever it is, right? That you book with a trusted, well qualified psychotherapist, counselor, so forth and so on, right? So that's one. And if you can afford it, nothing is wrong to spend the money on that. And for many of us who have what is called insurance, we can make use of that as well, right? Instead of allowing that to run out for the year or whatever it is, right? So that's one suggestion. The other thing is that it's important um, to invest in meaningful relationships. Because you need support. No man is an island. Because that is where you're going to get the safe space. When it's a meaningful relationship, because we drawn to people who we feel safe with, right? And so it's important for you to contribute to those kinds of relationships, which means that there are some stuff that we are dealing with in our lives that prevent us from having meaningful relationship. The truth is, some people, they don't have a lot of meaningful relationships in their lives, and sometimes it's because of their communication skills and people person skills and soft skills and these things, you know. Because if you don't, if you do not possess, we're talking about like exercising appropriate um manners and respect, and it's hard for you to establish and maintain over a period of time meaningful relationship. And so it's important for you to develop those skills so that you can have people in your life, people in your corner, people that you can go to, and people who can actually come to you. And just by having those relationships, you are pouring into them and they are pouring into you, and that can help you cope with some of the situations that you have in your life that you can't even resolve. Because the truth is, as long as we are this side of heaven, there are some problems in our lives we will not resolve, right? But we
Mhm.
can cope with them. And one of the best ways of coping with them is when you have solid, meaningful relationships that you contribute in terms of maintaining. So that's important too, right? Boundaries too is another huge one that can contribute to mental health, right? Boundaries, and this is a huge one. The truth is, while you want to treat everybody loving and kind, the truth is there are some persons and some situations that are very toxic, and you kind of want to manage those boundaries as well.
True.
I didn't say forsake. I said manage. Right?
So we can just drive past the police, we just to avoid that situation, for that manager who might not want to give us give us that raise, but the person who don't look like us, right? What kind of boundaries in that setting can we set?
Could you repeat that question, please? Could
No,
you
no,
repeat?
I'm just utilizing the everyday situations that we deal with as Black folks, right? As you talk about boundaries, where we're in the job and we may not get the raise, but someone else with less experience and even less education, right?
Yeah,
Would get that raise or get that promotion, right?
yeah,
Simply because they're coming at us based on how we look, not based on what we have up here,
yeah.
right? And you're talking about the whole boundary thing. I was asking,
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you manage in a situation like that, because you got to work.
No. First, you have to notice. First, you have to kind of notice your reactions,
Right.
right? And this is going a little bit deeper, right? You have to notice your reactions. For example,
One second here. Just let me just double check here, guys. We're heading on 2 o'clock. I mean, how much time? I just want to make sure you all are
I think
okay.
within the next 10 minutes we could wrap up. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Go
okay.
ahead, Jermaine.
Yeah. So in those kind of settings, because we're talking about boundaries, it's very important for you to notice your kind of reactions to those kind of situations. For example, you want to pay attention to your sense of anger that is coming up, and because if you don't notice that, right, it's hard for you to manage it.
Right.
Yeah. True.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to notice if there is this sense of jealousy too. Okay, you kind of want to manage that as well,
Mm-hmm.
because as human beings, we can be jealous of somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of want to manage that as well. And because when you notice it, you are able now to express it in the right context and to the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because the truth is you don't want a situation where it increase or it compound your mental health issues within that same context.
Yeah.
So you kind of want to make sure that you notice those kinds
Manage
of
that. Yeah.
yeah. Because for me, even me as a Christian, as a member in the Black community and so forth, there are a number of things that invoke anger in me, and
Yeah.
I'm not denying those, and
Yeah.
I try to pay attention to those, and I try to channel that in the right way as much as possible, because I don't want to compound issues upon my life and also my family,
and,
right?
and and not be labeled the angry Black person, or the one who the usual moniker that's thrown at us
Yeah.
when it comes to that. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. So things like that very, very important. Because in every situation, in this is my belief, in every situation there is a way, there's an appropriate way of dealing with it, and there are inappropriate ways of dealing with it. So you kind of want to pay attention to those realities in those kind of situations. So you have to take care of this. That's the question you asked, right, Billy? You have to take care of this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
and
because we're living on
and
the edge. As her question, we're always on edge. We got to look out for the police officers. We got to look out for that coworker or that boss. We're in an academic setting.
Yeah, look out for your children.
Yeah.
We have to have different conversations. Like, we are constantly on the defensive, like always on the lookout, always on the alert, and we don't even realize that we are. But I really, really loved all of the stuff that you shared. I think about, and I'm going to speak even just from my own experience, is that I loved when you talked about having that awareness about what you're feeling, and I just think about, there could be others who may be like me, where we don't always acknowledge how we're feeling because we have developed coping mechanisms where we just box things up and tidy things up and put it away. But as you said, what happens with water? It all flows out in some way, whether it's against others, against ourselves, whatever. So I really appreciated, though, your counsel to seek support. There is nothing wrong with speaking to somebody. Like, I like that you said, just as you deal with your physical health, you go get a checkup, you might go to the chiropractor, get adjusted. There's nothing wrong with talking to, a professional. And I love that you also mentioned, for sure, we should take advantage for those of us who do have those benefits where we can do that. But also, there may be free resources out there,
That's
right? That can
right.
support us, because sometimes we don't even know, because we don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
We've never learned how to deal with our feelings. We've learned just to be strong, tough it up. So you know what? I don't want to see you cry. I'm not going to cry, and I don't want to see you cry. Do you know what I mean? And that also prevents us from being able to serve others as well as when they go through their stuff, right? So anyway, I just really do appreciate
Yeah.
that removing the stigma of seeking professional support and just sort of attending it to like your own physical health. And I appreciated that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the other one that I mentioned in terms of develop over time, and of course counseling can help you with that, but develop over time how to build and maintain meaningful relationships,
Yes.
right? That piece is very, very important, because in those relationships, that is where you're going to be nurtured mentally, emotionally, in the right way, and we all need that. Because this is a huge piece now. This is a huge piece. In my view, this is very, 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 very huge. What compound the mental health issues is that many times we don't, and I stand corrected, of course, we don't have the necessary skills to maintain, to build, and to maintain meaningful, important relationships
Relationships. Yeah.
where we can be nurtured.
That's
All
a
right.
good point.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I appreciate a topic like this, and like we're gonna have to wrap it up here, and if we need to come back on this, then we'll do that.
Oh, it's a never-ending topic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we need to do part
Cover
two.
one. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just the fact that we're able to do so. For me, we're talking about it, and we're getting the information from someone who is in the field. One and two, it's almost as if we're being taken through our own some our own session, right? And given we're getting a practical example of what it means to have a safe space, right? Because and the reason why I'm saying this, I don't know if it's just me, but whenever if we talk about money, I may not know much, but I giggle and I laugh, and I'll on you guys, and okay, we'll figure it out. If it's about other things, we'll figure it out. But when it comes to mental health and issue, even I was even afraid that I might be using the wrong term, or
Mhm.
that type of thing. So uh, just to show you, the
Yeah,
uneasiness
Yeah.
yeah,
with the subject matter, and especially as we have to deal with it in the Black community,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Uh, so I really appreciate what we've done here, and getting the information on it, and how we
Yes.
can deal with much better.
Yeah, and the reason why the piece about the relationship, yeah, the developing the skills
Mm.
to maintain and to build and maintain meaningful relationships where you can be nurtured emotionally and mentally. The reason why that one is important, because some of the mental health issues that we are dealing with sometimes is not other people's fault alone.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's not the system's fault alone. Sometimes we're afraid to deal with ourselves, and we compound those issues as well. So that's why it's important to develop these skills where you can have better relationship with others, with the community, and so forth and so
Yeah.
on.
And
Yeah.
seek help when possible, for sure.
Yeah. Mhm.
All right. I don't know if you guys had anything else that you wanted to ask.
No,
The
I
only
think
oh sorry. Mhm.
yeah, I think as time progresses, I think we are becoming more and more aware of mental health, being a topic. I remember commercials where you'd have someone in the commercial talking, and this is highlighting and letting people know, even in the workplace, where someone has taken time off. And they said for mental health again, and the person just kind of shook their head like that's not even a thing. Are you kidding me? Like, how could we take off time for if you're physically sick, but it was for you to take off health mentally, time mentally. That just seemed as if individuals were not agreeing to that. And more now we see that people are taking off time for mental health to gather their mind, gather their thoughts, because there's so much happening. And I think there has been progress, but there's so much. I mean, this topic, it's so there's so many different things that we can't get into all of it right here, but there's so many
Absolutely.
pieces to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. And let me give you another practical context too. Even within the family, based on that, sometimes it's okay for a member in your family to have a sad day, a day to be sad because if the person is dealing with some pain, some disappointment, it's okay for the person to allow themselves to feel that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Don't deprive the person of that, because sometimes we will go and snap out of it.
Hmm.
Snap out of it. You are heavying down the place, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
No, it's okay for the person to have a day where the person can be sad, or a couple hours where the person can be sad. Those feelings need to be validated because they are real,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So if my wife is not feeling up to certain things, no, it's okay for me to understand that and to validate that, because she's a human being and she have issues. She's not going to be happy all the time. No,
Hmm.
she's not going to be in a situation where everything is going well all the time. No, that is not possible.
Yeah.
She's going to have disappointments. She's
Hmm.
going to have losses in her life. And
Hmm.
so I have to allow her the time and the space
Right.
to process that,
Hmm.
to allow herself to feel it. Because if you don't allow yourself to really feel it, it's hard for you to heal
Hmm.
from it.
Right.
So that piece, and you mentioned the workplace context, but I'm also speaking
At
about
home.
home relational context.
Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah. You have some people in relationship, their spouse or their family members or their child or children can't feel sad and disappointed no time at all. And it's unfortunate because you're not validating the person's feelings and you're not allowing them to actually go through the natural process of
And
feeling
feel it.
sad.
And
And because if they don't deal with it there, they'll have to deal with it down the road.
hmm
Mhm.
All right. I think we're gonna have to close off on that note there. If as we know that we have you now as a contact, right? And we can touch base with you as long as your schedule allows you to do so, right? To come on here and share some other things with us. Yes, but we're gonna have to sign off until next Thursday, folks. Right, Keisha? Right, Billy?
Yeah.
yes,
Yes.
once again,
The
it's a
only
pleasure.
one thing that I would just ask, if
Yeah.
Jermaine, if you've got any resources that you think would be helpful, that would be great if you can share with us and we can add to the post, because it's just great to be able to direct people to other resources to help them through, what they may be going through, especially as we have this conversation. It may,
Yes.
unearth things with people. So we would welcome any resources that you recommend.
Okay.
Yep. Definitely.
All right. Well. Right
We can
now.
share them. Probably you can share them with KP, since
Yeah.
we are having
Well,
to
yeah,
wrap, but we can,
yeah.
And
see
we'll
if we know
post
we
it.
can get that, then we
Yes.
can
Yes.
post it for
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share it with you, KP, and then you post it. Okay.
All
Yeah.
right, no problem.
Sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Well, as you know, here we are bringing knowledge and opportunity to those in our community. We do hope that you found this session here very informative. There's so much. There's so much, right? We can't pack it all into one session. Mental health is a very huge topic, and many people are experiencing it right now, especially in this particular climate of COVID. People are enclosed in their homes. People are locked away. People are stuck in abusive situations. Children are. There's so much more room for mental health, right? So, Jermaine has definitely given us a little bit of insight with regards to how we can deal with it ourselves and how to possibly identify and help others. But at the end of the day, I encourage you, if you are someone right now who's listening to this and you are going through some issues, some mental health, take the time to reach out to someone. Take the time to pick up the phone and call. We'll provide you with some resources. Do not bear it all on your own because it escalates and it only gets worse. Let's unravel it and let's get you to a good space of mind. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, whether it's now or later. Thank you for your time.
Amen.
Yes, ma'am. Couldn't have said it any better. We're just here to help you make sense of your dollars as well, all right? But we're also dealing with the mind, right? All right. So until next time, thanks once again to Pastor Jermaine Parker for coming on here. Shout outs from all of us, and we'll be back next Thursday as
Yep.
we continue to support the community. Take care, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.